now that Derek Lowe will not be pitching in New York. He will not be donning a Mets uniform. Myself included, everyone had Lowe penciled in for a slot behind Johan Santana. It looked like that was the Mets' target, and very well he was, but he was at a price. And I had wrote about this on the blog, nybaseballdigest.com, that I believed it would take a 4-year, $60+ million contract, and I thought the Mets might be able to get away with making the 4th year an option or a vested situation. And the Braves, after losing John Smoltz, the PR disaster that turned out to be, losing out on A.J. Burnett, not being able to acquire Jake Peavy, they had to do something. And I thought they would wind up going after Oliver Perez because he was cheaper, and maybe Derek Lowe was more inclined to pitch for a contender and take similar money. But it's clear, and this is the case with most players and Boris clients, and a lot of the time you can't really blame them. Derek Lowe wanted to go where the biggest contract was, where the most money. He can be traded, so if things don't work out and the Braves are not in contention, Derek Lowe will be one of those pitchers over the course of the next 2 to 3 years that you might find on the trading block, and he'll go to a contender and finish out that contract somewhere else. Who knows? Too early to tell. But at $15 million a year, you're giving him borderline number 1 money, borderline, really number 2 money for a pitcher that probably you're going to be looking at 15 wins, solid performance, pitched really well for the Dodgers down the stretch. Not sure if that'll make a difference with Atlanta. We have a lot to see from the Braves in terms of potentially whether they make more moves and if they stay healthy. But the Mets just couldn't go there, and I guess the consolation prize is what this is all about, and that's Oliver Perez, because this is not your normal consolation prize. There's really not many other ways the Mets can go if they don't sign Perez. Can they go and get some kind of deal with Ben Sheets? Sure. In every which way, Ben Sheets is probably better than even A.J. Burnett, if you really want to break it down. The risk there is Ben Sheets gets hurt at inopportune times, as he did with Milwaukee. He has a very sketchy injury history, and he's a huge risk from a standpoint of, can you bring him in and expect him to make 30, 35 starts? And if he does, will he be there at the end? Or will you have the pitching version of Moises Alou that's very effective when he's on the field, but keeping him on the field is the question. The Mets rotation now really can't afford to have that. Tim Redding is not a bad 5th starter. He's going to at least give you what Pedro gave you last year. I probably think he could give you a lot better. Jonathan Neese is a young pitcher that obviously can take over for Redding if there's issues or he's hurt and plug in that 5th hole. He's probably better served at spending some time at AAA. You need somebody that can be, whether you want to call it a number 3 or number 4. I mean, at this point, when you look at Maine, Pelfrey, and possibly Oliver Perez, they're probably all going to be interchangeable. I don't think there's one that stands out above the other at their best that could say, okay, this guy clear-cut number 2. Maybe Pelfrey and Maine have a little bit of an edge over Perez, but the Mets need Oliver Perez. The Mets need to get this deal done. They're going to have to give up a lot more than 3 years and $30 million. They're probably looking at a 4-year, $52 million contract, similar to what Ryan Dempster got. I think that's reasonable for someone like Oliver Perez, who just 2 years ago won 15 games. I understand the frustration of the inconsistencies. I understand that he could be as good as he was in 2004 and have an ERA under 3 and strike out 239 hitters. And he can also show you how he could be as bad as he was in 2006 before he came to the Mets, when he only won a couple of games, and I think was 3-13 when the season ended, and had one of the worst records for a Game 7 starting pitcher. But everybody remembers Game 7, and I think that's what really it came down to. The Mets were going to get Derek Lowe at their price. They liked him. Maybe they liked him a little better than Oliver Perez, but at age 36, they were not about to spend $15, $16, $17 million and pay that money for his age 40 season. It would be nice if they do go out and do what I think they absolutely have to, which is get Perez done. Don't let this linger and let somebody sneak in and jack up the price. So look at a Ben Sheets. Look at an Andy Pettitte. See if you can still scrounge up enough money now, depending on how much you have to pay Perez, and get yourself a legitimate 1 through 5, a good start at each position. Nothing against Tim Redding, but to me, he's a swingman. He's a guy that you could have play the Darren Oliver role. He's a guy that could be a decent fifth starter, but he's somebody that I don't have confidence that when he takes the mound that you're going to get a good outing night in and night out. Let's remember, this is a guy that just a few years ago couldn't get out of the first inning pitching for the Yankees in Boston. So, that's part of it. And staying on the Pettitte and the Yankees situation, it's pretty interesting because Peter Abraham brought it up, and I'll bring this up to Joey when he gets on. When you start to look at the Yankee and the Red Sox rotation, the Red Sox, by acquiring John Smoltz and Brad Penny, they have some low risk, high reward guys. It's only money. They're free agents. They didn't give up any prospects. I even said Smoltz could have a tremendous impact out of the bullpen if that's where they decide to put him later in the year. Saito from the Dodgers, their closer, is another great arm they picked up. The Red Sox went into the bargain bin, and especially with Brad Penny and John Smoltz, they added some nice high-end depth to that rotation. Now, when you look at Sabathia, you look at Burnett, you look at Wong, and then the upside of a Chamberlain and Phil Hughes, the Yankee rotation is better, especially because you think that Beckett may not be 100%. Tim Wakefield obviously is what he is, and you just don't know what you're going to get out of a young pitcher like Clay Buchholz and Justin Masterson, and Lester's proven himself, but there's still young pitchers, and Daisuke is a nice pitcher, but I don't think that's somebody that you could automatically put a W in a big game. I think the thing here is, and Peter Abraham, as I said, brought this up, what about the depth? When the Yankees have to go, like they did last year, to names like Jason Johnson and Dan Geis and Kiyagawa, the Red Sox can go to a John Smoltz later in the year, a Brad Penny. These are guys who were top pitchers in the National League. And I'll tell you, when Smoltz is on, especially if you put him in a relief role for one inning, that's a lights-out type of guy. Even at 70-75%, which I believe he was at times last year, his arm never felt right. From spring training he was complaining about it. Smoltz still put up decent numbers in 30 innings. He had to grind through it, but he put up some decent numbers. So I think that means that Andy Pettitte is somebody that they have to seriously consider not walking away from. Who knows if they get involved on a one-year deal with the Ben Sheets, or God forbid for the Mets' sake, start to look at Oliver Perez. We just don't know. The Yankees right now have given all indications that their major shopping is done. It looks like they're going to play hardball with Pettitte. And, it's something that I really think they need to take a strong, hard look at, because an injury here, innings limitation there, and God forbid Burnett does not give you what you hope, which is 190 to 200 innings minimum, then you got yourself some problems there. And I think that's where the Yankees need to really evaluate Andy Pettitte. And also, staying on the Yankees, I also think they need to think twice before they start trading the excess of outfielders, because Xavier Nady is a guy who could play first, he could DH, he could play the outfield. I know they don't want this kind of expensive piece coming off the bench, and I'm not sure if Nady necessarily in his contract year wants to play kind of the everyman role, even on a winning team, but I think that's a player that, the Yankees may look at, because if Teixeira needs a blow or, gets hurt, or you just don't know with Johnny Damon and his health and Matsui, and who knows if Melky Cabrera could sustain any kind of success for an extended period of time like he did in 2007, you may want to think about not trading Xavier Nady. And I'll tell you what, you probably could hold on to him and get a little bit more if he has the kind of year he did last year, because look at what the Pirates in trading him wound up getting from the Yankees. So a lot of interesting things to talk about. Joey's going to give us his update and what he thinks about some of these things, and I'm even going to talk about the MLB Network, because I thought in watching last night's MLB Network show with Bobby Valentine and Ricky Henderson over the last couple of nights, I'll tell you what, they are just doing an outstanding job. I know that the fans on the site have gotten angry at me because I've been making some comparisons to Yes and SNY and ESPN, and maybe they feel I've been a little bit hard on those other networks, but taking it just for what it's worth, just at the MLB Network, they have done an outstanding job. And if this month or the few weeks that they've been on the air is any indication of what we could expect from Major League Baseball when it comes to televising a product, I am very optimistic about its future. And I think ESPN at the very least and Baseball Tonight has a lot to worry about in the upcoming months. So